Welcome to Direct Stars again. Today we'll be looking at the mole concepts generally. By the end of the lesson today, you should be able to say what mole is, calculate the number of moles in a given compound, and also convert mass to mole and mole back to mass, vice versa. What is a mole? A mole simply accounts for the amount of chemicals present in a substance. In chemistry, we don't have the privilege to just use mass for reaction because what actually take part in reactions are atoms. Okay, and we need to account for the amount of atoms in a particular chemical substance that engage in a chemical reaction. Okay, so in order to do that, the mole concept was developed such that if you have one atom of carbon-12, for example, which has a relative mass of 12, you can confirm from your periodic table, and you would notice that for each 12 gram of carbon-12, you have 6.02 exponential 23 atoms. That is huge. Too huge for us to use in our everyday calculations. Okay, and that is why the mole concept was developed, such that for every 6.02 exponential 23 you have is equivalent to 1 mole. Okay, for every 6.02 exponential 23, like I said, this number is huge. We can't use it like that in calculations. So to account for this, we use what we call moles. So this is equals to 1 mole. So if you're told to get 1 mole of any substance, what you're asked to get is equivalent to 6.02 exponential 23 atoms. So this number is a special number known as Avogadro's number or Avogadro's constant. So I will want you to also note that this is known as Avogadro's constant. Okay, that's the name of the scientist that the credit for this constant was given to. All right, so how do we now measure this in real life? If, for example, John was asked to get 1 mole of carbon, how will John go about it? All John needs to do is to get the equivalent mass, the relative mass of carbon measured in a scale. Okay, that is exactly what 1 mole of that carbon would be. Let's take, for example, what is the formula mass of carbon from the periodic table? The formula mass of carbon is 12. So for John to measure 1 mole, all John needs to do is to get 12 grams of carbon-12. Okay, so, and that is where this comes in. So use your formula mass. It's each of the formula mass of a substance is equivalent to 1 mole of that substance, which also contain Avogadro's constant, or 6.02 exponential 3 atoms. So in a real sense, if I'm to get 1 mole of carbon, 1 mole of carbon is equivalent to 12 grams of carbon, okay, and which contains this number of atoms. Okay, so this is the mole concept explained in short and in simple terms. If you look at the table we have here, we have water. If I'm to get 1 mole of water, for example, all I need to do is get the formula for water, which is H2O, find out the formula mass of water. So the formula mass of water is equals to, from the periodic table, you have the atomic mass of hydrogen to be 1. So that's 1 times 2, because we have 2 hydrogen here. We have 1 oxygen, and oxygen has an atomic mass of 16. When you add this up, you get 18 grams. Okay, so 18 gram is needed now. Okay, so if I want to get the this gram per mole, so that's the SI unit. So if I want to get 1 mole of water, 1 mole of water, I need to measure exactly the formula mass, which is 18 grams of water. Needs to be measured on a scale to get 1 mole of water. Okay, so if you're told to get 2 moles of water, all you need to do is multiply this mass by 2. So that means you need to measure 36 grams of water to get 2 moles of water. If you ask to get 3, you also multiply by 3. So that is how to measure out the mole of a substance. You can see other examples on the screen. We have copper, we have sodium chloride, we have sulfuric acid, magnesium nitrate, and the likes. So that is how to get the formula mass. Okay, and get the relative formula mass. You measure that exact mass to get the moles that you need. Okay, so this is the formula triangle summarized. Okay, if you look at this table, this triangle, you will notice if we want to get mass, mole, let's start with moles because that's what we're looking at. It simply means mass over the formula mass. Okay, mass over the formula mass. However, if you want to get mass, you say mole times the formula mass. So this triangle is very important. Take note of it. It will really guide you on how to get the mole of a substance. Okay, so we move on to finding the mole of a substance if given mass. So for example, let's look at how many moles are there in 180 grams of water. If you have 180 grams of water, and you want to get the mole, all you need to do is simply write your formula. Mole equals mass over the formula mass. Okay, so we have the mass already, 180 grams. We need the formula mass of water. That has been calculated here already as 1 times 2 plus 16. So this is the formula mass of water. We'll simply bring that down, or you can likewise show the working. So let me just put water here. Okay. And then the mass is 180. Mass given to us is 180. And you have water, which is 1 times 2 plus 16. Okay. And that will give you 18. So if you have 180 grams of water and you want to know how many moles of water are present there, you use this formula. Okay. So this, of course, will give us 10 moles. It simply means for 180 grams of water, you have 10 moles of water. Okay, so you can go on and practice more examples all by yourself. Okay, at this point, we'll stop. I would love you to do as many examples as possible. But don't forget to subscribe to this channel to get more and more lessons like this to help you understand vital concepts in chemistry. Ensure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, till we'll meet again. Bye.